I'm going to ask you a question. How many of the bankers who threw millions of people onto the streets during the 2008 financial crisis went to prison? Answer: almost none. Now another question. How many Yakuza leaders who wrecked Japan's economy were punished? Same answer: almost none, because both were inside the system. In 2008, a Japanese banker told reporters, "We're just Yakuza in ties. They carry knives, we carry derivatives." The story I'm telling you today isn't about tattooed gangsters. It's about how crime and capitalism speak the same language. In Venezuela, inflation has exceeded thousands of %. Official banks don't work. So how do people transfer money? Through black market currency dealers. Is it legal? No. But does it work? Absolutely yes. This is exactly how the Yakuza was born. In 17th century Japan, peasants and merchants needed credit, but there were no banks. Courts were slow, the justice system didn't function. The market created a void, and the Yakuza filled it. The state doesn't provide credit. Yakuza became loan sharks. Contracts aren't enforced. Yakuza provided guarantees. No trust? Yakuza became intermediaries. Economists call this market failure. Let me put it more simply. People respond to incentives. Whenever there's a need and the official system doesn't meet it, someone will inevitably fill that void. After World War II, Japan was in ruins. The economy had stopped, but people still needed food, fuel, medicine. So the black market exploded. Who controlled it? The Yakuza. For millions of Japanese, doing business with the Yakuza wasn't crime. It was a survival strategy. They were the ones supplying goods, providing credit, taking care of business. Modern parallel: Taliban rule in Afghanistan, war economy in Syria. When the state collapses, organized crime becomes the secondary economy. Let me ask you, in America, when a corporation makes a campaign donation to a senator and gets a tax break law passed in return, what do we call that? Lobbying. But when the Yakuza gives money to a politician and gets a construction contract in return? Corruption. See the difference? It's very thin. Most of the time, it just depends on who wrote the rules. In the 1960s to 70s, the Yakuza became integrated into Japan's economic miracle. Syndicates like Yamaguchi Gumi opened offices, printed business cards, hired secretaries. Why? Because everyone's interests aligned. Corporations. The union is striking, Yakuza handles it. There's a land issue, Yakuza persuades. Politicians. Need campaign money, Yakuza provides. Need to silence an opponent, Yakuza handles it. Banks. This project is risky, but Yakuza guarantees it. Loan approved. This still exists today. Goldman Sachs executives being appointed at the U.S. Treasury Department. Pharmaceutical companies providing consultants to the FDA. The regulator gets controlled by the regulated. The Yakuza's most ingenious invention, Sokaya. They would buy a few shares in a company. Why? To attend shareholder meetings. Then they'd stand up and say, "The CEO has a scandal, or there's corruption in this project. I can expose this, or I can stay quiet." In Japanese culture, losing face was so important that companies would pay millions. Hush money became a budget line item. Are there similar methods today? Of course. Activist investors, cyber ransomware, consulting firms creating public relations crises. The tools change, the logic stays the same. Information is power, and that power is for sale. In the 1980s, Tokyo real estate prices went so crazy that it was said the land under the Imperial Palace was worth more than the entire state of California. How did the Yakuza contribute to this bubble? Land manipulation. They secretly bought land, intimidated residents out, then sold to developers at inflated prices. Stock manipulation. They accumulated shares in a company and threatened executives with, "I'll expose the scandal," making advantageous deals. Complex structures, shell companies, offshore accounts. It was impossible to track who was financing whom. Let me tell you something. These techniques aren't unique to the Yakuza. Modern hedge funds' short-selling attacks, hostile takeovers, algorithmic trading manipulations, it's all the same logic. Information advantage, coordination power, fear, profit maximization. Why did banks turn a blind eye? Because the profits were tremendous. And the banks knew that if things went wrong, the state would come bail them out. This is what's called moral hazard. Remember 2008. U.S. banks sold high-risk mortgage loans. Why? Because they were too big to fail. Between the Yakuza economy and Wall Street, there's only an aesthetic difference. In 1989, the bubble burst. Real estate values collapsed. Trillions of dollars evaporated. For ordinary citizens, the lost decade began. But for the Yakuza, a new business model. Companies were going bankrupt. Yakuza became debt collectors. When legal channels were too slow in asset liquidations, the Yakuza's ruthless efficiency was preferred. This is the dark version of Joseph Schumpeter's concept of creative destruction. As old structures crumbled, the Yakuza extracted value from the wreckage. In the 1990s and 2000s, the Japanese government finally cracked down. Anti-gang laws were passed. Membership numbers dropped. But the Yakuza didn't disappear. It evolved. Casinos in Macau, real estate in Hawaii, business partnerships in Southeast Asia, alliances with Chinese triads and the Russian mafia. Just like Apple's or Google's globalization. When capital became mobile, so did organized crime. The Yakuza story isn't unique to Japan. It demonstrates a universal political economy principle. When official systems are rigid, slow, or limited, crime provides liquidity, speed, and ruthlessness. For corporations and politicians who want results, these qualities are irresistible. Every financial system has its shadows. And usually, the real business gets done in those shadows. Where are they today? In Italy, the mafia dominates construction and waste management. In Latin America, cartels launder drug profits through banks and real estate. In the U.S., white-collar crime and lobbying have become legalized corruption. In Dubai, anonymous companies hide billions of dollars. London's real estate market is inflated with dirty money. The labels are different, but the mechanics are the same. Power flows to those who combine money, violence, and influence. The Yakuza just institutionalized this in an extraordinarily visible way. Financial systems aren't as clean as they appear. When you strip away the layers of respectability, you find networks of influence operating by different rules, hidden in plain sight. Today's lesson: don't marvel at the exoticism of Japanese gangsters. Recognize the same patterns in your own backyard. In lobbying firms, in the shadow banking system, in the offshore accounts shaping global finance. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. The Yakuza's rise from street gamblers to corporate land barons isn't just Japan's story. It's the story of times when crime and capitalism merged, and society accepted it as the cost of doing business. The shadows are always there, shaping outcomes, directing money, rewriting the rules of the game. The only question is, do you notice them? And do you understand that the world's most dangerous empires are built not with weapons or armies, but with balance sheets and contracts. Money doesn't speak. History speaks. Old money.